Hello there, Stevos, and welcome back to another episode, this week's episode of the movie wrap-up. So without further ado, let's see what movies I've watched and reviewed right now in this week's episode of the movie wrap-up. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap-Up, episode 98, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie I'll be reviewing in this episode is Spaceballs. First up this week is Spaceballs, which I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. In 2027, we are getting a new Spaceballs film, which is titled Spaceballs: The New One. However, though, the movie Spaceballs, which was first released back in 1987, is a film I have never seen before, but I am so glad to have seen it now because I did see it was available on Amazon Prime as part of Prime subscription. However, though, it is leaving the service on the 1st of June 2026 here in the UK. So I thought at the time of watching it, with a week to go before it left the streaming service, I better get a shift on and watch it. So what did I think of Spaceballs? Well, if you don't know what the movie is, it is a very silly comedy Star Wars parody film which pokes a lot of fun at Star Wars. You have Princess Vespa, who clearly is a parody of Princess Leia in Star Wars. You have Bath, who is a parody of Chewbacca, otherwise known as Chewie, in Star Wars as well. Oh, and best of all, they have a parody of Darth Vader from Star Wars in here, who is played by Rick Morales, and he is called Dark Helmet, also known as Lord Helmet as well. There is so many moments during this film as well where some of the characters does break the fourth wall as well, which I found rather amusing at times. This does feel through and through like a film from the 80s. This does have a lot of slapstick comedy in here to keep you entertained throughout the running time, which does clock in at 1 hour 36 minutes. And believe me, there was a lot of times during this film that I did chuckle at certain scenes. Also, can I point out here that the ship that Dark Helmet is on board must be the longest spaceship in the history of spaceships. When you see how long it is at the beginning of the movie, if you haven't seen this before, then prepare to laugh because it is hilarious. There is also a scene where on the back of one of the spaceships during this movie, it does have a sticker that says, "I heart Uranus," which I did laugh out loud over as well. Oh, and there is also a character in this film who is called Colonel Sanders, obviously parodying Colonel Sanders, who founded KFC all those years ago. And yes, there was a KFC reference in here as well, which again I found rather funny too. I don't want to give away any more jokes and parodies that this film has, because if you are wanting to check this movie out for yourself, then I highly do recommend it. They do have a lot of merch in this film. I will give you a prime example. There is a Spaceballs the bedsheet duvet on a bed in the film, which I found hilarious. But this is where the jokes and parodies in this review stops getting mentioned, because again, I want you to enjoy this movie for yourself if you haven't seen this before. So as mentioned, do I recommend watching Spaceballs? If you are into Star Wars and looking for a parody film of Star Wars, then I would say check this one out. Or if you are looking for a good comedy to watch, then I highly recommend checking this one out. Even if you aren't a fan of Star Wars or know too much about Star Wars, but want to give this a watch, I mean, if you aren't a fan of Star Wars, you will know at least some references from that franchise, though through various means of pop culture over the years. Toy Story 2 has a lot of Star Wars references in it when you watch that movie, for example. I would still highly recommend checking this one out for sure. Is Spaceballs a movie I would be happy to check out again? Yes, for sure it will be, and given the fact a sequel is coming next year in 2027, I will revisit this film again sometime next year before the release of the sequel. Spaceballs is available to buy and rent now on digital platforms. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The next movie that I've watched this week is Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is another movie from the 80s that I have never watched until now, and in the last few months it has been announced that they are making a new Killer Clowns from Outer Space movie. Whether that will live up to the original is yet to be seen, and when that is released, whether that be next year or in 2028 or even by the end of the 2020s, we will see what happens. But nevertheless though, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a film that has also been on my Letterboxd watch list for a very long time. I can't even remember when I added this to the watch list, but all I can say is it has been there for some time, and just like the movie Spaceballs, which I watched before watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space, this film only had a week left to go on the streaming platform Amazon Prime Video here in the UK before it left the streaming service as part of Prime's subscription. So just like with Spaceballs, I thought I'd better get a shift on and watch it before it left. So what did I think of Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Well, I did enjoy the film. Loved the designs of the clowns. They did look rather creepy and nightmare fueling. If I watched this back in the 80s, if I wasn't born in the late 90s, then sure, the designs of the clowns would have gave me nightmares, probably for weeks. And I hope they do that with the reboot whenever that does come out. The characters for me were rather likeable as well, and given the fact that Killer Clowns from Outer Space is classed as a horror/comedy, I thought it balanced the two rather well, both horror and comedy side of the movie. Also, even though there isn't music of a soundtrack in this film, but the main theme for the film, which opens the movie and closes it as well, I still believe in the year 2026 is a banger. I'd better see if this song is available to stream, because if it is, then I will be rather annoying and listening to that song on repeat, especially because it is a catchy song too. And by the way, can I just say, since this review, I have actually gone on to a streaming platform, Apple Music to be exact. Spotify Music is probably going to be another streaming platform where this song does stream on. But if you search in the song Killer Clowns by, I believe it's by the artist The Dickies, listen to that song. And believe me, if you listen to that song, The Dickies, Killer Clowns, you will, just like me, find yourself a brand new banger for 2026, even though this song came out in probably 1988. But anyway, in the year 2026, that song still slaps. So there we go. Anyway, do I recommend watching Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Yes, I do recommend giving it a watch. If you are looking for a classic 80s horror/comedy film to watch, would I happily rewatch/revisit Killer Clowns from Outer Space? I would say so, yes. I did have a fun time with this movie and did enjoy it as well. And with a quick running time of just 1 hour, 26 minutes, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a film that is quick and easy to watch as well. But Killer Clowns from Outer Space is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now. Baz Luhrmann's epic Elvis Presley in concert. So, the next movie I watched this week was Epic Elvis Presley in Concert, which I gave 4 stars over on Letterboxd. My 200th movie, by the way, of 2026 that I have watched is Epic Elvis Presley in Concert, which is directed by Baz Luhrmann, the same director who directed the Elvis biopic that was released in 2023, which starred Austin Butler in the role of Elvis Presley in the film. But as for this film, Epic Elvis Presley in Concert, though, what did I think of this? I thought it was rather decent. This was more of a documentary style movie, more than anything else. Yes, we do see Elvis performing some of his well-known hits, such as Hound Dog, Suspicious Minds, and I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And I tell you one thing, if my mum was still with us today, she would have likely watched this documentary movie with me, because she was a huge fan of Elvis Presley. We do see some behind the scenes stuff that Elvis Presley did over the years when he was alive. We do see a little bit of his acting / movie career that he did when he was alive as well. We do see a few interviews as well that he gave to the press where he talks about his fans and what it is like performing to his fans as well. As for the concert scenes, I was amazed at some of those scenes. Why? Because there are certain bits and pieces in here that looks like it was filmed more recently, so I am amazed that they managed to remaster this footage and make it feel like it was filmed in today's society. Do I recommend watching Elvis Presley in concert? I do. If you are interested in seeing documentary movies, especially about musicians, then this is worth the watch. And if you are a fan of Elvis Presley's work in the past, whether that be his acting in movies or his music, then I would recommend giving this a watch also. It does come with a running time of 1 hour and 37 minutes, so it doesn't outstay its welcome either, which is good. Would Elvis Presley in Concert be a documentary movie I would happily revisit / rewatch again in the future? Yeah, for certain. I would happily rewatch this again in the future. But Elvis Presley in Concert is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now. Diabolic! Next up this week, I gave Diabolic a watch, which I gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. So Diabolic was released on DVD this week for you physical media collectors out there who still buy DVDs, and it was also released on digital platforms this week. Although, strangely enough, this wasn't released on Amazon, and at the time of doing this review for the movie, it still hasn't shown up on Amazon's digital store either, but you can buy it here in the UK through other digital platforms such as Sky Store, Google Play, which is where I brought the film on. Not gonna lie, I was gonna watch this straight after Elvis Presley in Concert on the same day I watched that movie, and I did start to watch it. However, though, as I got about 15 minutes into the film, my dinner was ready, so I turned the movie off, and I didn't turn it back on until less than 24 hours later, which at that point I restarted watching those first 15 minutes of the film alongside the rest of the running time. So what did I think of Diabolic? Now, before I do go into the rest of this review, I must point out that Diabolic is also available to buy and rent on Amazon's digital store right now as well. I have checked today, just before hitting the record button on this episode of the movie wrap-up, so it is available on all digital platforms here in the UK. But in terms of what I thought of Diabolic, though, well, let's first off speak about the running time, as it does clock in at 1 hour and 35 minutes, so a nice, easy watch for those looking for something to watch. Secondly, this is a horror movie, a religious horror movie, in fact, so if you are into religious horror movies, then you may get some enjoyment out of this. Thirdly, for me, I found this movie rather boring. I'll be honest here, it does drag at times. It does have its pacing issues as well, and especially at the start of the movie, it is quite a slow burn religious horror movie. But I will be honest though, I think it is safe to say as we get towards the final part of the third act, or even the final act of the film itself, it does somewhat improve, which is why I have given this a 2-star rating on Letterboxd. Is this going to be a movie I will rush back and watch again anytime soon? I don't think so. Yes, I enjoyed this movie somewhat, but wouldn't rush to see it again. I have seen some Letterboxd reviewers review this film and say it is slightly like Evil Dead, and yes, I do to a certain extent agree on that, but with a smaller budget though. And also what is frying me is at the beginning of the movie, when the opening credits started, it said on one credit, a insert local distributor presents. So I don't know if here in the UK they have found a distributor for the film or not, but clearly according to the opening credits they didn't. Anyway, Diabolic is available to buy and rent on digital platforms right now. Backrooms, the found footage short film by Kane Parsons' YouTube channel, Kane's Pixels. And the final movie that I have watched this week is The Backrooms found footage. Now this is a short film, by the way, by Kane Parsons, who is a YouTuber, and you can find this over on YouTube right now if you just search for Kane Pixels after you've watched this episode of the movie wrap-up. So I gave The Backrooms found footage, the short film, 3 stars over on Letterboxd after watching it on YouTube. Before seeing Backrooms in cinema soon, which I believe I will be going to see next week, I have decided to go on YouTube and watch the short film The Backrooms, which has a running time of just 9 minutes and was released in 2022 by director Kane Parsons, who has directed the feature-length Backrooms film for A24, which has just released in cinemas and theatres worldwide, which I will have a review for next week in the movie wrap-up. Kane Parsons directed this found footage short film in 2022 when he was only 16 years old. He directed the feature-length Backrooms film at the age of 19/20 years old, and as a director, this opening weekend, he could make history becoming the youngest director to have a movie at #1 at the box office. I will reveal whether he does make history or not when I do review the full feature-length film next week once I have seen it in cinemas. But as for the short found footage version of Backrooms, which you can find on YouTube, I found it to be rather effective at times. I also felt like, for a moment, I was in the Backrooms, which was crazy because even before the camera pans around a corner, I was trying to see what was in the corner before the camera got there first, as if I was in the room. I love how nightmare fueling this is as well. At one point, I even said that out loud before my sister came over and asked me what I was watching. So I explained what it was and how now there is a movie made from this short film. Also, can we take a moment to appreciate the fact that this has that VHS style recording to it as well? Man, it feels like a video that has come straight out of the 90s as well. Now, what I have heard is there is plenty more Backrooms videos that Kane Parsons has done on his YouTube channel, which now I may have to check out and hyperfixate on before seeing the feature-length film next week. For someone who directed this at just 16 years old, I will say I am very impressed. And if I come away next week from watching the feature-length film in cinemas feeling rather impressed, then Kane Parsons might just be the director to keep an eye out on in the future, alongside Curry Barker, who has just had a lot of success from Obsession. Yes, I am still talking about that film and won't shut up about it. Backrooms, the found footage short film, is available to stream now on Kane Parsons' YouTube channel, which is Kane's Pixels. And that is it for this week's episode of the movie wrap-up. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, feel free to leave a like. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what movies you guys have been watching this week, whether it's old, new, in cinemas, theatres, on streaming, whether that be Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney Plus, Shudder, or Now TV here in the UK, or even on Peacock over in the US as well. Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to become a Stevo, and don't forget to tap the notification bell as well so that you guys can get notified as and when I upload more content to my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. Now, there is going to be episode 2 of Steve's Lens on Life, which premiered last week. Episode 2 is going to be dropping tomorrow, Monday the 1st of June 2026 at 6 PM UK time is when you can check that out over on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. However, though, there is going to be another episode of the movie wrap-up coming to you on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial, on Sunday the 7th of June 2026. Again, that'll be dropping at 6 PM UK time. But until then, though, from me, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video.